Imagine the fighting has finally stopped. The screaming is over. Your enemy, the person who minutes ago was trying to kill you, is lying dead at your feet in the mud. You won. But now you're standing there, chest heaving, staring at the body, and a strange, uncomfortable question creeps into your mind. The same question that faced every warrior who ever lived. What do you do now with the body? Because here's something we almost never think about. Killing your enemy was only half the story. What came next, what ancient humans actually did with the corpses of the people they defeated, is one of the darkest, strangest, and most revealing windows into the human mind that exists. It wasn't random. It wasn't always just cruelty. And once you understand the reasons behind it, you'll see something unsettling. The same instincts are still alive in us today. Let's start with the most obvious thing a victor could do. Take a piece of the enemy home. For a huge chunk of human history, across cultures that never met and never spoke, warriors did the exact same thing. They collected trophies from the dead. The most famous of these was the head. Headhunting appears again and again around the world, from the jungles of Southeast Asia to the islands of the Pacific to tribes across the Americas. A severed head was undeniable proof that you had killed your foe, but it was more than a receipt. In many cultures, the head was believed to hold a person's spirit, their power, their very essence. And by taking it, you weren't just proving a kill. You were capturing their strength and adding it to your own. Some cultures took this idea to a chilling extreme. There were peoples, like the ancient Scythians of the steppe, who were said to turn the skulls of their most hated enemies into drinking cups. Think about that. You defeat a rival, and then, at a feast, you pour wine into the hollowed-out top of his skull and drink from it in front of everyone. It sounds monstrous to us, but to them, it was the ultimate statement of dominance, a way of saying, I have not only beaten you, I now hold your power in my hands, and I drink from it. The dead enemy became a permanent physical trophy of victory, displayed at the dinner table. And it wasn't just skulls. Warriors across the ancient world took ears, took hands, took scalps, not out of pure savagery, but often for a very practical reason: proof and counting. In a chaotic battle, how do you prove how many enemies you actually killed? You bring back a piece of each one. In some armies, soldiers were literally rewarded based on the body parts they collected. A pile of severed hands wasn't a horror show to them. It was a receipt, an accounting ledger written in flesh, showing exactly who deserved a reward. But now we come to the darkest practice of all, one that makes people deeply uncomfortable, and yet appears in the human story far more than we like to admit. Sometimes, ancient humans ate their dead enemies. This is called exocannibalism, the eating of outsiders, and it was rarely about hunger. It was about power and meaning. The belief, held by many different peoples, was hauntingly logical to them. If you consume your enemy, his flesh, his heart, his brain, you absorb his courage, his strength, his spirit. You take everything he was and make it part of you. For some, it was the ultimate victory. Your enemy doesn't just die, he becomes fuel for the very people who defeated him. For others, it was pure terror, a way to send a message to every rival still out there. Cross us, and we will erase you so completely that nothing of you remains. That idea, sending a message, leads us to maybe the most common use of a dead enemy in all of history. Not as a trophy, and not as a meal, but as a warning. Across countless ancient and medieval societies, the bodies of defeated enemies were put on display. Heads were mounted on spikes at the city gates. Corpses were left hanging where everyone entering or leaving would have to see them. Skulls were stacked into walls and towers. This was psychological warfare, thousands of years before the term existed. The dead enemy became a billboard, a silent, rotting message that said to anyone thinking of rebelling or invading, look what happened to the last people who tried. Fear was the goal, and a dead body was the cheapest, most powerful advertisement of power a ruler could buy. And then there's one of the most astonishing and eerie practices of all, the shrunken head. Deep in the Amazon, certain peoples developed an extraordinary and gruesome ritual after killing an enemy in battle. They would carefully remove the skull from the head, and through a complex process of boiling and drying, shrink the remaining skin down to the size of a fist, sewing the lips shut. But here's the part that changes everything. They didn't do this for fun, or even mainly as a trophy. They believed that a slain enemy's spirit was dangerous, a vengeful ghost that could return to haunt and harm the killer and his family. Shrinking the head and sealing the mouth was a way to trap that angry spirit inside, to lock it away so it could never take revenge. What looks to us like a monstrous keepsake was to them an act of spiritual self-defense. And that reveals something crucial, something hiding underneath almost all of this. For ancient humans, a dead enemy was not just meat and bone. He was a spirit, a soul, a potentially furious ghost who had every reason to want revenge from beyond the grave. And that terror of the vengeful dead shaped what people did with the bodies more than almost anything else. In many cultures, the greatest punishment you could inflict on an enemy wasn't killing him. It was denying him a proper burial. To leave a body out in the open, unburied, to rot and be torn apart by animals, was considered a fate worse than death. Without the correct rituals, many believed, the soul could never find peace. It would wander, lost and tormented, forever. So mutilating or exposing an enemy's corpse wasn't only about humiliation. It was an attempt to destroy him not just in this world, but in the next one too. But, and this is the twist that makes the whole story so human, the fear of the vengeful dead cut both ways, because that same terror also led some peoples to do the exact opposite. Instead of desecrating their enemies, they buried them carefully, respectfully, sometimes even honorably, not out of kindness, but out of fear, a desperate hope that a well-treated ghost would be a peaceful ghost, one that wouldn't come back to curse the victor. Others kept enemy skulls not as trophies of hate, but as objects of protection, believing the captured spirit could now be made to guard them, its power turned to their side. The line between trophy and talisman, between revenge and reverence, was often razor thin. So step back and look at the full, strange picture. Ancient humans took the heads of their enemies to steal their power. They drank from their skulls to declare total victory. They ate them to absorb their strength or to terrify everyone watching. They mounted them on spikes as warnings to the world. They shrank them to trap dangerous spirits. They denied them burial to destroy their souls, or buried them with care to keep those souls from taking revenge. Every one of these was an answer to the same haunting question that stood over every battlefield in history. The enemy is dead, but is he really gone? And here's the part that should stay with you, the part we don't like to admit. We tell ourselves we've left all of this behind. We're civilized now. We have rules of war and respect for the dead, and we would never do such savage things. And in many ways that's true. But look a little closer, and the ancient instinct is still flickering there, just wearing a suit. We still parade defeated enemies for the cameras. We still take trophies from war, a flag, a weapon, a captured banner brought home in triumph. We still display images of fallen foes to prove a victory and to send a message to the rest of the world. The impulse to do something with the defeated enemy, to turn their defeat into proof, into power, into a warning, never actually left us. It just changed its clothes. Because underneath the technology and the treaties, we are still the same creature standing over a fallen body, feeling that ancient primal mix of triumph, fear, and unease. The dead enemy has always been more than a corpse. He's a source of power to be claimed, a spirit to be feared, a message to be broadcast, and a victory to be made permanent. Our ancestors just understood that truth far more openly and far more literally than we ever could stomach today. So the next time you hear about a fallen enemy being displayed, or a war trophy brought home, or a defeated leader paraded in front of the world, remember that you are watching something incredibly old, something that reaches all the way back to that first warrior, standing over that first body in the mud, asking the question humanity has never truly stopped asking. Maybe the real question isn't what ancient humans did with their dead enemies. Maybe it's why, after all these thousands of years, some part of us still feels the need to do anything at all.